Russia did not necessarily lose in Mali. What actually happened is far more dangerous than a defeat. They exposed the structural ceiling of their entire Africa model. And once you understand the difference, the whole Sahel picture changes. I spent the better part of 2 decades analyzing terrorism in the Middle East and on the African continent. I am well aware of how contracted security architectures are built, how they're sustained, and more importantly, how they fail. Now, Russia's Africa Corps deployment in Mali was never a traditional force posture. It was a deniable footprint model, a low signature, high leverage situation built on the assumption that the host nation's political survival and Russian security guarantees were permanently aligned. A couple of weekends ago, that assumption broke. I'm here to show you exactly why. All right. So, what is happening in Mali, and what does that mean for the African continent? But most importantly, what does that mean for Africa Corps? Now, I'm only going to do a brief history lesson here on Africa Corps. If you don't already know, Africa Corps is the offshoot of the Wagner Group that was running rampant in the Western Sahel. And ever since the coup, the Prigozhin coup attempt from a few years ago happened, the Wagner Group was transitioned into the Russia's Africa Corps, its military group. There's a little bit of history on the Africa Corps. Now, they were providing security for various countries within the African continent. One of those was Mali. They forced the Malian government, the junta, to expel French forces, to go away from their traditional U.S. ties, and to stick with the Africa Corps, with Russia, and to gain ties with Moscow. So that worked for a couple of years. However, what happened in a couple of weekends ago was that JNM, which is the Al Qaeda affiliate of the Sahel, and the FLA um, teamed together. Now, the FLA is not known as a terrorist organization, but they are mainly rebel fighters in the Tuareg region of the country. So they teamed up and they began to attack various cities within Mali. Now, by all accounts, by the open source intelligence we have in this situation, uh, the Russia's Africa Corps retreated almost immediately. They did not put up a fight. Now, they put statements out in the information operations space. They killed 1,200 people, or 1,200 fighters within the region. But all right, it doesn't add up, because what we know is that Africa Corps left those cities and began to consolidate around the capital of Bamako. Why did they do that? Well, they didn't see that cities like Kidal and Gao were very important, but they knew the capital of Bamako, where the president sits, President Goida sits, as the key. If they can keep Bamako, they can somehow sustain their presence within the government of Mali. Now, what does that mean for the future of Mali? We don't know right now. Is Mali going to decide? Is President Goida going to decide to kick out the Africa Corps because they are not providing the security guarantees that they had promised? Or will they maintain a much better relationship, since Africa Corps consolidated around Goida, President Goida, and the junta? That is yet to be seen. My assessment on this is that it is possible, teetering on like that will consolidate around Africa Corps and continue their security guarantees, unless something changes within the relationship between JNM, the FLA, and Russia's Africa Corps. What we know now is that Africa Corps is in negotiations with Janum to give certain portions of Mali up to that terrorist group. Now, the Janum doesn't describe themselves as a terrorist group, but they are an Al Qaeda offshoot. And from a US perspective, from a Western perspective, that is a terrorist organization. But Janum wants to be considered a viable government organization. And that is going to be the true test here. If Africa Corps hedges their bets and tries to play both sides of this, then chaos continues to ensue in the country. And then what happens? You can look for the United States, for France, for the UK to try to regain influence in the region. So that's something to be looking for. That is a probable course of action for the United States. And so, what are we looking ahead for the next couple of weeks within the country of Mali? I'd be looking for negotiations with JNIM. Do they get more power? Do they get a bigger voice within the country? Do they try to acquire more regions of Mali? That's highly likely. They are going to try to maintain more parts of Mali. Now, the bigger question is, do they make another go for Bamako? Bamako, the capital of Mali, and I have that as unlikely. It is heavily fortified right now. It's got multiple forces guarding it. So not probably not going to see a move towards Bamako. And then finally, what does ISIS in the Sahel do? Now, ISIS in the Sahel and JNIM, they're not on friendly terms, but the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? So does JNIM try to team up with ISIS to install a caliphate within Mali? It's possible. It's 50-50 here. Look for some indicators and warnings. The indicators being communications between the two terror groups, and then look for uh, when attacks happen in especially in these northern regions of Mali. What who's carrying out these attacks? Is it going to be in tandem between JNIM and ISIS, or are they going to attack each other? And are they going to see this? Is ISIS going to see this as an opportunity to overrun JNIM? Now, finally, we need to look at is the FLA. The FLA, just in the Tuareg region, um, this is very much a minority group. These are rebels who are trying to hold their own positions in their own villages. They are assessed to not really be looking to expand much, but they are very much willing to defend themselves and defend their presence in the Tuareg regions of Mali. So, does JNIM, having seen them as an opportunistic group to align themselves with, does JNIM then begin to push them out and begin to attack the FLA? And then what does the FLA do in that situation? Do they try to strike a deal with the Africa Corps and with the UNSA in order to protect themselves and to go after JNIM? I think that's unlikely. But if that does happen, that changes the entire trajectory of this current civil war that is going on. So you're going to want to stay tuned. I know the continent of Africa doesn't get a lot of play, and especially Mali, countries like Mali and Burkina Faso, the Western Sahel, they're sort of overlooked because people think it doesn't have an impact on their lives. But I can tell you, having worked there, having lived there, very much, um, if things go sideways in these countries, it will affect you personally, your pocketbooks. It's going to affect technology, and it's going to affect who takes over, who is seen as the superpower. We haven't even talked about China. There will be more videos on what China's doing on the African continent, but it's very important. And so if you like this video, if you appreciated the information in this video, go ahead, hit subscribe, give us a follow, comment. What do you think? Or were you shocked by these actions? Are you keenly aware of how where Africa stands from a geopolitical perspective? Let's get into the comments. Let's have those conversations. And as always, stay safe out there.